Today's bike of the day is a 2023 Kawasaki ZX-4RR, and I'm extra excited about it because Kawasaki USA hasn't even done the press launch for this bike yet. So all my journalist buddies still haven't had a chance to ride it, but our client Brad just bought this, has a couple cool stories about it that I'll share, and he knows how excited I've been about this, especially after I was on the Revzilla High Side Low Side podcast about this bike. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it, and then of course we'll do a little bit of riding footage, but I gotta make sure I give him his bike back. So again, this is the brand new 4RR. In other markets, Kawasaki previously introduced a ZX-25RR, which is a 250. America gets this one. But there were some things that we discussed in the podcast that everyone's been talking about how it's limited or restricted for certain reasons. Well, Brad's got all that fixed already, so I'm pretty excited about that. In fact, he wouldn't even let me ride it until he had got these modifications done. What are those modifications? Well, the big one is going to be an ECU flash paired with this pipe right here. So he was actually riding this around, getting his break-in mileage done when he was at a gas station, and someone came up to him all excited, "Oh my God, is that the new 4RR? You know, blah, blah, blah." Well, it turns out that that guy works at Yoshimura. And so they've been looking for one of these. Like I said, they're really hard to find. Kawasaki hasn't even done the press launch here in the US yet. So Yoshimura was looking for one of these so that they could build their prototype pipes to sell to everyone else. And so Brad kindly donated his bike for a bit, and as a return, they gave him a prototype exhaust. They gave frame sliders from that ZX-25RR we were talking about earlier. He's gonna get a tail tidy soon. He's got this great Yoshimura tinted windscreen, a few little bling, some performance, some bling to help make this bike a little bit better. One other interesting modification he's added is from TST Industries. If you see, he's gone with flush mount and turn signals that do a little pattern there, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it's gonna show in the camera, but hopefully you can see that. So, that is the basics, but really the most important thing to me here is that this bike is not capped. The stock bikes that you buy at your local Kawasaki dealership after about 11,000 RPM are gonna just make more noise but not make more power. This revs cleanly and develops power all the way through the 15,000 plus red line. So enough of me talking about it. Let's fire this thing up and let's take it for a quick spin. You know what helps? If it's in neutral. It's already warm. Yes, 163, okay. Close your eyes and listen to this. You do not think that is a 400. That is so cool. All right, I'm gonna throw my helmet on and take it for a quick spin. Oh man, that is cool. And of course, because it's a 400, it weighs nothing, so backing it up is easy. Oh my God. There we go, it's not bad. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Ergonomically, it reminds me of my Ninja 400, the parallel twin, which is a good thing. Wow. That sound is pretty exhilarating. So it's got it's got an up and down quick shifter, which I think is unheard of with these displacement. God, it's so comfortable. There's plenty of room to move around on the seat. There's barely, like, the forward lean isn't bad. Oh, the quick shifter works, the auto blipper works really well. It's a pretty good tune by whoever did this. Brad said someone in the Pacific Northwest. It feels a little flat between 8 and 10,
but above 10 it's so much fun. The crazy part is I feel like I've only been shifting at 14 too. This winds out more. But it does all the boring stuff well. And what I mean by that is, again, it's incredibly comfortable. I would ride this thing to Vegas and back. The mirrors are good, you know, are usable. The ergonomics in terms of where the buttons are placed and things like that, it's intuitive, it makes sense. Nothing feels cheap. The cable clutch, you know, at this price point, there's a couple things that I probably would have liked to have seen, whether it's a hydraulic clutch or just better OEM tires. This thing uses the Sportmax GPR 300s that I've never cared for. Same things they put on a Ninja 400 or an R3 from a generation ago. But it's a lot of fun. This is, of course, not a fun environment to test it, but it's LA, so you're stuck with traffic. Oh man, I have to admit I was a little disappointed that I didn't get an invite to the to the launch of this bike, but frankly, what everyone's going to be riding is the stock version, and this is, I can tell, is going to be better. I'm so excited right now that I got a chance to ride this early. Alright, I'm going to ditch off the freeway, get one last good acceleration run in, see if I can't even get it up to 15.5 or so, and then we'll get this bike back to Brad. Thank you. Oh, just such a good little backfire pop sound on this thing. I've said it before, but the blipper works really, really well on this. Let's see here. So there's a bunch of brake dive, which is a little disappointing. We were even just, I mean, it's just soft suspension. It's preload adjustable. Brad was telling me, I believe that's the only adjustability in the forks is preload, and it's definitely too soft. I'm a little under 200 pounds, and it's too soft up front. The brake, the feel from the calipers is pretty good. But, you know, again, it's like for the price, which I'm going to guess is $9,200, $9,300, and we'll put a thing on the screen if I'm wrong. But you kind of hope to see braided lines or something like that instead of rubber lines. But yeah, you can really rock this thing. All right. Oh, it's a lot of fork dive. Wow. This license plate is for my friend Nathan. It gives you a little of that feeling when you're on a Grom or a mini bike where every stoplight is basically a drag strip. Problem is, unlike when you're on a Grom, you don't really get that much attention on this thing, especially with this pipe. It's hard not to notice you.
Well, I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely enjoyed that a lot. I'll start with the small negatives. They're really not a big deal, but one, I think for me, the biggest thing is there's a lot of fork dive on it. The front suspension, the front forks are just too soft, but you know what? That's easily fixed, just like the whole restricted thing was a problem, but easily fixed once you get around to it. The clutch engagement is, like when you're getting into first gear, it's not brilliant, but the quick shifter itself is really, really good up and down. So once you're in first gear, it's really not a problem. The other thing is just, you know, it's arguably, I mean, not arguably, it is a lot of money for a 400cc bike. On top of that, when you now want to tackle things like the tune and things like that, well, the price is going to go up. I got to check with Brad to see how much he's already spent on this already. But I got to say, it is such an enjoyable bike to ride, especially with a pipe like this. You're getting attention everywhere you go. It always just, like every stoplight is a drag race. It sounds like you're in MotoGP. It is such an enjoyable riding experience. I love how light it weighs. I love how maneuverable it is. And I really, really just enjoy this as a riding experience. So going back to what the stock bike would be doing, Kawasaki claims 53 horsepower when you just buy one of these out of the dealership. When Brad took this to Yoshimura to get the pipe put on, they did a dyno baseline. Before they did anything, they said 56 at the rear wheel, which, you know, maybe it's just their dyno, maybe Kawasaki's slightly understating their numbers. After he put the slip-on on, went up to 60 horsepower at the rear wheel, and then after the tune was done, well, he hasn't had it dynoed yet, but it definitely feels like more. That's his words, and frankly, with my time on this, I mean, I only rode the bike 3-4 miles, but I would say it's probably making, I mean, it's making over 70 horsepower at the rear wheel, if I had to guess. But again, of course, way up at the top of the power band. Now, coming back to the cost real quick, I spoke with Brad briefly. He mentions that the tune that he got was $300. The pipe, again, they give it to him for free because of the situation that happened here, but you're looking at $500-600. So all in, $900. It's one of the, if you're gonna spend 10 grand on this, you would be a fool not to spend the $900 already. Like the 10 grand is kind of a significant initial investment on this, but if you're gonna do that, you just have to know that you're gonna spend the money on that because it just really makes a bike a lot better. What was the name of the tune company? I'll give them a little plug. V-Cycle Nut. All right, V-Cycle Nut, $300 for the tune and gets free reflashes for life. So Yoshimura gave him a slip-on. They just announced yesterday that they're going to make a full system for this, so I'm sure Brad's going to get that, and then when he puts that on this thing, he will get it flash-tuned again and let this bike sing. So when you look at this bike, after you purchase it, after you put the mods in, tax, title, license, all the fees, all that stuff, I mean, you're probably looking at 12 grand-ish, and if you said, hey, Abhi, here's 12 grand, go buy your next bike, I'd look, at my heart, my core, I'm like a V-twin, boxer twin guy. That's always going to make me the happiest, but I finally get this. Having had the chance to ride it, I do understand why someone would do it. When I was on the podcast, there was the question, what drove the question, or drove the whole episode of the podcast was is this a beginner bike? Having ridden this, I can confidently state, no, it is not. Now, like any modern bike, you can put it in rain mode, you can make it more approachable through the electronics, but this is capable of being something suitable for an expert. Take care of those front forks, put better tires on it, and someone is gonna have a heck of a time on a track just spanking 600s and people on, you know, less experienced riders on faster bikes. This is gonna be a lot of fun to ride. One last thing, normally you think of small displacement bikes, you think of high gas mileage. On my Ninja 400 parallel twin, even when I was doing like track days on it, I was getting 40, 50, well, more like 40 miles a gallon on the track. And on the street, you're looking at 60, 70. This bike, 33.8 miles a gallon on the street. And that is what happens when you spend all of your time at 14,000 RPM. But you know what? It's well worth it.